February 13th, 2016, Saturday. The sun had found its way into the sky again, throwing its light along the buildings and grass, giving it the look of a calm, yet brightly burning fire. Sun spilled into James's window through the thin gaps in his blinds and fell across his eyes. Its lingering caress pulled against his eyelids, willing them to open. Finally, the sun's patience was rewarded, for James opened his eyes. He blinked several times and wiped the sleep from his eyes, hoping to find that the past 2 days had just been a dream. Of course, they weren't. Slowly, James sat up in his bed, his hair falling over his forehead. His eyes burned and his body ached, and one thought sat upon the pile of all others. "I want to see Liz," he muttered to himself. James lifted his phone to his face and turned it on, expecting the usual good morning message from Liz. Nothing. "She must be at work already," James muttered. He lifted his phone and messaged her. "Call me when you get off. Love you." He then rolled off of his bed and got dressed in the first few pairs of clothes he could find, a black oversized shirt and gray sweatpants. As he opened up his door, the familiar noise of his sister cooking greeted him. He smiled and waddled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Ames," James muttered.
"Morning, James."
Amy responded.
"How'd you sleep?"
James looked around the kitchen. It was already a mess. His mother was sitting at the table drinking coffee and reading something on her phone. "Can I help you cook?" James asked without thinking.
Sure.
Amy stuttered. James smiled, poured a cup of black coffee, and grabbed a bowl. "Eggs?" James asked.
Eggs.
Amy responded.
Samuel. Master? Sir.
Luke stammered as he slammed into Master Samuel's observation room. He had but a moment to take in the room that he so rarely had a reason to be in. The walls were covered with screens of the facility, so Samuel could monitor all the servants in the building.
"What is it, Lucas?"
Samuel asked in a bored tone, his booming voice rattling the boy's bones all the same.
I think I found something.
"Well, spit it out. What is it?"
Luke clutched the tablet he was holding against his chest. The master loomed over him.
I went through the data as you told me to. At the time of the attack, there was an energy surge in the lower half of the facility, where Carthyst was.
"I am aware. I was in the room when it happened."
Samuel replied with a huff.
Sir, the energy surge was what made our shields go down, and what began of the agent's attack.
"Oh?"
Luke smiled. He had Samuel now.
Sir, the energy surge was caused by someone in the facility. The energy readings of this person matched Elisabeth.
"Well, how did she get in here?"
Samuel demanded.
I have two theories. Either we have a servant that is related to her and is loyal, or she just got into the facility the only other time the shields were turned off.
"Which was?"
That was when we let the car in that held James Carthyst.
Amy lifted the dress she was holding to her collarbone.
This one?
Amy switched hands and held another dress to her neckline.
Or this one?
"Why are you asking me this?" James muttered. "I clearly know nothing about fashion." He said that while motioning at the clothes he was wearing. His father's old hoodie and a torn-up pair of black jeans that Amy made him change into before they left.
"Because Liz won't respond,"
Amy said in a whiny voice.
"She hasn't spoken to me since you scared the crap out of us."
"Sorry," James replied. "What about, Evelyn?" Amy fixed her gaze on him with an "are you an idiot" face. Okay, fine," James exclaimed. "How about you pick?"
"If I were to pick, I would get both."
Amy replied, pouting.
"And I am broke."
James groaned. He hated going to the mall. Both of the twins hated it, but Amy had a different reason. Well, James just didn't like shopping. Amy hated the people. She was pretty antisocial and hated crowds. That's why she only ever went on Sundays. Only half the mall was open on Sundays, so there was much fewer people. "I could help pay," James said, lifting his phone. He scowled and slid it back into his pocket.
"No."
Amy said, taking a breath.
"Self-control. Which one?"
"How about you try them both on and see which one is more comfortable?"
"I'm not worried about comfort. I want to look good."
"Why? If you don't do stuff for yourself now and again, you're gonna lose your mind,"
"I'm already losing my mind having you as a brother."
Amy said sarcastically.
"I want to have something when Evie and I go out."
"Amy, you have nice clothes, and Evie was already impressed with you wearing Mom's hand-me-down coat."
"But..."
Amy groaned.
I see your point, but I also want to look good, whether it impresses Evie or not."
"Well, alright, grab something and..." James trailed off. Amy glanced at him in concern to see a hand poking his shoulder. James turned around, and for just a moment, Amy saw a boy about her age, maybe a little younger. She got sight of jet black hair and bright white skin. "Can I help you?" James asked.
Are you two dating?
Amy heard the boy ask. "No, she is my sister." His shoulders squared defensively.
Oh?
James was about to say something else when Amy peeked around him.
James, who?
Amy stopped and her eyes narrowed as she saw the boy.
Oh, it's you.
The boy was thin and was dressed in all black, which made his skin look even more startlingly white. He looked out of place in the colorful oranges and tans of the store. "You know him?" James asked.
Not well.
Hi, Amy.
The boy said, his suddenly bright voice contrasting with a nervous muttering from earlier.
Hello, Zane.
Amy replied, sighing.
Hey, I was wondering if...
No! Like I said the first 3 times, no!
James turned towards the boy, Zane, and grimaced. The boy's eyes cycled from annoyance to fear to anger.
Whatever, slut!
He said loudly, lifted his chin defiantly, and began walking away. Before he could get out of James's reach, however, James grabbed the back of his hood and turned away from him to face Amy. "What? Did you just call my sister?" he asked. His eyes locked on Amy's and his arm bent awkwardly behind him, holding on to the boy. Amy held back a smirk.
I...
Zane stuttered from the other side of James. James broke eye contact with Amy and turned to the boy, put his other hand on the boy's shoulder and turned him around. "Give me one reason not to bash your teeth in right now," James commanded, quietly and calmly. Zane turned even more white than his already pale skin.
James, you've made your point.
Amy said. She sounded amused. James turned to her and smiled. "Not quite," he said. With that ominous note, he whipped around and brought his fist against Zane's nose. The boy shot back. He would have fallen if James had let go of his shoulder. "Don't speak to her again," James whispered in the boy's ear. "Have a nice day." With that, James let go of Zane's shirt and the boy ran, wiping the blood from his lip and bumping into everything in his way. Amy laughed.
You didn't need to do that.
She said quietly. "Yes, I did. You don't mess with my family and get away with it."
No, I mean, I could have done it.
Amy said, chuckling. James laughed. "Did you finally pick something?"
Yeah,
Amy held up a pair of leggings with a rose design embroidered on them.
let's get out of here.
The two walked to the cashier and made their way out of the mall to begin the walk home. Then came the questioning Amy was dreading. "How long has he been bugging you?" James asked.
About a week. Nothing major.
Amy muttered, looking away. "What did he want?"
To take me to a football game,
Amy began.
and he wanted...
"Amy?
He kept texting me, asking for pictures.
Lewd pictures?"
Yes?
Amy said very slowly. "Did you give him any?" Amy hesitated. Amy!
I'm sorry. He just wouldn't leave me alone. I thought he would back off, but...
"I'm going back," James said as he turned back towards the mall. "I'm gonna kick his ass."
No, it's fine. I blocked him, and after the show you just gave, I think I'll stop.
James sighed and turned back to his sister. "If he ever talks to you again."
I know, and you'll be the first to know.
"And?"
And I will be sure to break his nose.
"Good," James muttered. His body was tremoring slightly, and he repeatedly clenched and unclenched his fists. "You should have told me."
I know, I'm sorry. I thought I could handle it.
James sighed again. His energy seemed to dissipate, leaving behind exhaustion. It's okay, he whispered, more to himself than Amy. "You just should have told me." The two continued walking in silence for a few minutes before Amy spoke again.
I just get sick explaining to guys that...
Amy trailed off. "That you're gay?" James added flatly.
Yeah.
Amy responded, looking at the ground. "It's okay. I'm more than happy to kill someone that is harassing you, even if it gets me killed." Amy laughed and leaned her head on James's shoulder.
What else are brothers for?